There is no current chair of the select board because of the election and resignation of Dan Gallant, who is the acting chair. So normally I wouldn't chair the meeting, but that's why I'm doing it tonight. So it's 6:30 of a duly posted Board of Selectmen select board meeting. And please note this is being recorded and broadcast live currently by our cable committee. So the first and only order of business I have is the nomination and reorganization of officials for the select board. So we'll start with the position of chair. Are there any nominations for the position of chair?
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Jeff as chair.
I'll second that.
Okay, nomination to for Jeff Williams and seconded. Are there any other nominations? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any deliberation? Seeing none, seeing no deliberation, call for a vote, do a roll call vote for Jeff Williams as chair. Start with Heather.
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Alright, Jeff Williams is the new chair. Vice chair will be the second. Any nominations for vice chair?
Nominate Katie Young.
Katie Young is nominated. Any seconds?
I'll second that.
Second, are there any other nominations? Seeing none, are there any deliberations? There's no deliberations?
Yeah, I'll be vice chair.
Alright, nomination for Chris Prego. Any seconds? Okay, seeing none. Any deliberation? Any further deliberation? Alright, call for vote, starting with Heather.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
Chris.
No.
Jeff.
Yes.
Katie. Yes. Alright, 4-1. Now, the vaunted position of clerk. Any nominations for clerk?
I'll nominate Heather. Sorry, I apologize.
Heather is nominated. Any seconds?
I'll second the nomination.
Thanks.
Moved and second. Any deliberation, or any other nominations, excuse me.
Anyone else?
Alright, seeing none, any deliberation? Kate, no deliberation, we'll call for vote. We'll start with Katie this time.
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
Heather.
Aye, yes.
No.
No, well, it doesn't matter, I'm
I know
outvoted.
it doesn't matter.
Alright, before I turn the meeting over, this is a large crowd. Just want to address the crowd about open session, which is coming next before I turn it over to the chairman. So for open session, if anyone has discussed the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health rather than professional competence of an individual, or to discuss the discipline or dismissal of complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual, the individual has at least a 48-hour notice requirement and the ability to put it in open session or not in open session. So just a quick primer on open session. Cannot do anything that damages the reputation or character, physical condition, mental health. Rather, can only address professional competence. So I'll turn it over to the chair. Congratulations, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you very much. Also, I'd like to welcome Peter to our board.
Thank
On
you.
behalf of the rest of us.
Thank you.
Okay, first thing we'll do is ask if anyone's here for open session. Okay, and your purpose?
It's to discuss unprofessional competence, is that what it is? That's allowed?
Professional competence.
Professional competence would be in that category.
I don't know what you're gonna discuss.
Okay.
And are you the spokesman?
Yes.
Are you the only spokesman?
Yes.
Ed, can you just say your name and address for the
Yep,
record?
right on here, I'm gonna read right from here. There's a copy for all, and I'd like to have, one of these copies read into the, or put in the minutes of tonight's meeting. Thank you.
But before you start, we have a huge agenda tonight.
I'll try and keep it short.
Well, I'd like to, if we could, limit it to around 5 minutes to present.
I think I can do it, Madge.
And hopefully it doesn't get out of hand, because if it does, we will stop. Okay.
With this fine group of professional people, I can assure you that won't happen. Ed Blanchard, 23 East Comet Pond Road. I'm here this evening not to speak for myself, but on behalf of the Hubbardston Lions Club. First of all, the Hubbardston Lions Club is non-political. We never bring up, discuss local, state, or federal politics in any of our meetings or events. The Hubbardston Lions Club has 45 members and have been doing community service for the town since 1975. At our last meeting, the club voted unanimously to bring a matter of great concern before the board. It has to do with Select Board member Katie Young making public statements that the club lied, the Hubbardston Lions Club lied on our ARPA application.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just state that,
We're bordering on.
can't discuss the reputation, character,
Right,
physical
we're
condition, or
bordering
mental
on
health
that now, yeah.
of a public official or employee
Right.
in open session. So options for this could be to have an official statement given to the Board of Selectmen, to have a future meeting discussing this option and giving the elected official the chance to see the complaint. Or you could have a meeting where representatives from both sides discuss this. All options that I have previously asked for in order to avoid any potential issues from any disparaging remarks being sent either way.
This is not a complaint, this is, don't we have the right to come to a select board meeting and disagree with something that the select board has done?
My job, Mr. Blanchard, as you know, is to recommend to the town what should or should not be discussed in open session. This is an item that is normally put onto an agenda so that everybody has the right to be noticed. I can tell you if this was an employee, I wouldn't allow this to continue.
And you're with the calling Katie a liar and so forth, I
No, I didn't, I never stated
you
that.
just said statements that she has,
No, the statement was that she had said that we lied on our application. I never said she lied. Some background. The Lions Club applied for an ARPA grant to recover the lost revenue during the 2020 due to COVID. I was the Lions Club representative for the ARPA application. I have an accounting degree from UMass and 17 years as a corporate finance officer and many years on the Hubbardston's Finance Committee. The ARP financial numbers came out of our Lions Club treasurer directly from GFA bank statements. The application was reviewed by the officers and directors of the club before our application was submitted. The application was accepted by the ARPA committee and subsequently the select board. Mrs. Young, during the select board approval, could have asked any questions during the process if she had concerns regarding the application. Subsequently, 2 members of the Lions Club were told by 4 residents of the town who were not affiliated with the ARPA committee or select board that Mrs. Young stated that the Lions Club had lied on their application for ARPA funds.
Mr. Chairman, just advising the select board that you're discussing the reputation of a public official, their character, physical condition, or mental health, rather than professional competence. There's no way for anybody here to prove whether or not, I'm not saying it was said or it wasn't, but I'm concerned that the town would be held liable for anything that's said for the remainder of this meeting.
all right, and we need to stop this now, okay? Based on that,
There's no harassment here involved.
Never said there was harassment, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
we need,
if I may I make a motion that we, both add an item onto our next agenda as well as direct our town administrator to be in touch with legal counsel as to how to proceed? And, make sure that Ryan is in contact with Mr. Blanchard as the representative for the Lions Club to inform him of how the select board will be proceeding with this matter.
motion, as a motion,
So
motion's
made.
made, is there a second to that motion?
I will second that.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
You gotta take a full vote.
Oh, vote, Heather,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Chris,
No.
Jeff, yes,
Yes.
motion's passed.
Will this be entered into your minutes as requested?
This isn't my meeting, Mr. Blanchard.
Oh.
I'm here to advise.
Well, you're controlling it, so I figured I'd ask you.
He's controlling it in the sense of from the legal point of view.
Yep.
I understand.
Because this is such a borderline case. Before we do dismiss the
Mr.
topic.
Blanchard, I understand what you're implying. My job is to serve as an official of the town.
Mhm.
If this was you or anybody else, I would give the exact same advice. I do not want it to go in either direction. I don't care. I'm not a
No,
political.
I just asked if it would be entered into the minutes.
For
Go, ahead.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. For a response that I would again direct that over, I would make a motion that prior to entering it into the minutes, that Ryan check with legal counsel.
You wanna amend your motion in other words, or a new motion now?
I'll make a new motion, Mr. Chairman, that
Okay.
prior to entering the document provided by Mr. Blanchard into the record, we hand it off to our town administrator to confer with legal counsel prior to doing so.
Okay, motion made, is there a second?
Second.
And second, any discussion? Katie? Yes?
Yes.
Yes, Chris?
No.
Peter?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
So moved.
Do we have the right to request that no further negative comments be made about our fine organization in the 2 weeks it takes for us to,
I think
have a
personally,
resolve on this?
Ed, I think personally, the point has been made, okay? Before we move on with our own, the other business that we have tonight, cause I've been really thinking about this a lot, I just would like to make a comment, personal comment. I think it's a shame that, something like this has come before us. Number one, it's really nothing that the board can deal with. This isn't something we make a motion on or pass. This is a
Mr.
political
Chairman,
matter.
Mr. Chairman, I would advise you not to make this statement and to keep to the vote that was made and allow this.
I'm not gonna change a thing, I'm talking
I would
about.
advise you not to make a statement.
Okay, all right.
Our only request here this evening was to just ask for a public apology and have the whole matter gone, settled, and move forward, doing great things for our town. You included, us included. Could have been easily handled that way, perhaps, but
So, but we'll,
we'll go the other route.
yeah,
Thank you.
what I will do is
Appreciate your time.
recess the meeting for about 5 minutes, so people who wish to leave may leave, and then we'll come back into open session. So, meeting recessed for 5 minutes.
Just like to remind folks that bathrooms are broken in the beloved Slade building, and also take a COVID test, they're free, and we have 1,800 of them. See you at 4. Thanks, man.
I keep getting all right, go slow. Let's go slowly.
We're leaving peacefully.
Thank you.
Or something.
I thought I was gonna have the place to myself. Surprise. That's right.
Oh, I didn't see you there. Hello.
Hello. I do have an item I would like to have put on the agenda for the next Board of Selectmen meeting.
Let me read something
And
for you.
I will detail it briefly, if I may.
Yeah, we come back from recess. Just
We're
tell
on
the joke.
recess for 4 more minutes.
Yay, recess. Okay, I recently became aware of MGL Chapter 33, Section 130, approval to drill or parade with firearms or harmless imitations thereof. Drilling or parading within Massachusetts with firearms or harmless imitations thereof, including muskets, fowling pieces, rifles, pistols, cannon or mortars or replicas commonly carried by a regimental unit. As you know, I am presently the commander of the Hubbardston Colonial Militia. I was very pleased to fire a memorial salute with my men, with the chief of police and the fire department and everything there. And you yourself may have witnessed me going through the safety drill with my guys. It turns out that in order to be a legal, completely legal militia in the state of Massachusetts, it requires authorization from the Office of the Adjutant General of the Massachusetts National Guard. I have already contacted the Office of the Adjutant General of the Massachusetts Guard, and with Ann Goldie's help, have found the pathway to obtain such authorization for the unit, which I think is very important in today's political climate, unfortunately. We are apolitical unless you want somebody to complain about those wigs or, at any rate, from the town, I would like if we could arrange the next select board meeting to have a copy of a town proclamation sanctioning our unit. Which we must be official, or you wouldn't let us parade with muskets and shoot them.
So since we're not in the official meeting, as the town administrator, I'll tell you, can you send me an email?
I can.
Forward it to the chairman for consideration.
Sure. I have a complete list here of all the prerequisites, most of which we already accomplish.
We'll have you out and
We can do this, and we'll look good.
I will command
Thank you
you
very
on
much.
Curtis Rec Field and see how you do.
Okay, it's been about 5 minutes, so I'd like to call the meeting to order, come back into open session at 6:47. And the next piece of business is announcements. Katie, if you would, please.
We had the Hubbardston Fair this past June 11th, and it was a gorgeous day. We had well over 100 vendors there. The Hubbardston businesses that came out did very well. Along with the food vendors, they all sold out. I got just feedback all over the place that everyone loved it, and it was a good day. They loved the band. They were happy. There was bounce houses. The PTO came out. They had the dunk tank. It was just, everyone had a good day overall and enjoyed themselves. People were coming in and out all day long. There had to have been at least 3,000 people in and out all day, and that's just a guesstimate. But after listening to how much food was sold between the vendors, there was definitely a lot of foot traffic in and out. So definitely a good day. And a fun day, and the weather was, like I said, gorgeous, so it was good. Next up, we have the Dinghy Dash, which I am currently taking sponsors for and applications. The Dinghy Dash is the last Saturday of August at 10 a.m. at Brigham Pond, where we all make cardboard boats and we race them, because why not have some fun? And for right now, that's all I want to talk about.
And we might mention that we had the humanity.
Oh, yes,
That we went
yes,
to.
we did. Jeff and I both went to the Hubbardston Habitat for Humanity, opening, what was it, groundbreaking?
Yeah.
Yeah, ceremony. We met the owners, they were very lovely. We took a tour of the house, and there was a lot of people out there. They got all these nice donation baskets put together from different entities, and it was a very nice ceremony. There was a blessing on the house and everything else. I guess they're going to be moving in, what they said, the end of July, I
Or
believe?
beginning of August, I think, yeah.
Yep, so, they do have to get the driveway tarred, and they have to get the walkway built, so that way the daughter can work her ramp, and get to her ramp easily, cause it's very sandy and gravelly right now. So, once they get that all accomplished, they'll be moving in. But yeah, it'll be a very lovely house, and it's very nicely set up.
They also informed us that they've built 39 homes so far, and is this the first one?
That's the first one in Hubbardston.
Well, in Hubbardston, but not in the state, right?
No, oh, no,
Right.
no, no.
So this was the first one, but,
Yeah.
thank
Yep.
you, okay. We'll move to the consent agenda. There's one thing to mention before we take a motion on that, is the VDR contract has been removed from the consent agenda.
Alright, I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes and resignations on the consent agenda.
Motion made. Is there a second?
Second for discussion?
Motion made and second. Open for discussion. Any
The only piece I wanted to add, just cause it's Peter's first time, Jeff, I was just wondering if you can just briefly explain to him how the consent agenda works, in case he wasn't as familiar.
When we pass this, for example, at the beginning of every meeting, it
Okay.
saves the time of having to go over it again in the course of the meeting by going through everything and so forth, or
Okay.
accepting it as it.
As it's written?
Yep.
Okay.
And we can always do holds.
Yeah, oh yeah, if you have any question on anything that appears on the agenda that you don't want to have by unanimous consent, you can put a hold on it. And then we will recognize you and you can explain it, and then you can either say, okay, fine, or let's
Thank you. It's gonna
remove
be
it.
a learning
Thank you,
process,
Heather.
so thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Okay. Now we're moving to the new business. The reorganization we've done. The calendar. Do you wanna discuss that, Ryan, or do you want?
So I have the calendar on the screen for you, and also had it in your packets. I sent you an email today just letting you know that these dates did change. So the reason they changed is we had them on the second and fourth weeks of the month, which would mean that Heather would no longer be able to participate. So assuming there's no consternation about it, we moved everything to the first and the third, with the exception of the posted meeting on July 11th.
And 18th. You told me, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
18th would
Mhm.
be,
There is 2 October 17th though.
yeah, I'll take that one right
What's
off.
an important day?
I know, we got a double meeting on that one.
I will edit the document. So this isn't mandatory, this is just to help you organize yourselves and to make this public so people can see the upcoming meetings. A couple things to note in the second half of the year, in order to accomplish this, we did run into a couple holidays. I kept those in there because the second half of the year can be, fiscal year can be busier, so there's a couple Tuesdays on there. And also did a placeholder for a June 6th meeting, which is right before the annual town meeting. So assuming this is good with everybody, we can post this calendar. Of course, at any time you can make adjustments or change it, it's just good to have something on books.
Any questions, from anyone on that?
What are the holidays, Ryan?
The January 10th, the 9th is a holiday, and February 20th is a holiday, so move that meeting to February 21st,
So Martin Luther King and.
President's Day.
President's Day, okay.
There is no other conflicts. You do have 2 meetings in December. Usually we only do 1. I just had a placeholder in there. If you get really mad, you can take it right off.
Okay.
Would you like a vote on this, Ryan? It
Uh,
says vote on the,
Yes, please.
Okay, look for a motion to,
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes as posted.
how about
not the minutes.
Oh, excuse me, the
Calendar
dates,
changes,
the
yeah.
calendar dates, I apologize. The calendar dates as posted.
Is there a second?
second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Motion passed. Move to new business C, appointments.
If I would just do both. All in favor and all opposed, just to make sure.
Oh,
with each
okay.
vote.
Sure, I'll take the
Learning
vote again.
curves,
All in
sorry.
favor of that motion?
What
Aye.
motion?
The one we just,
The last
on the calendar.
To accept the calendar dates. He's going backwards.
Look, I'm backing up because I didn't ask for the opposition. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed, thank you. We go to the appointments.
Okay, so again, in your folders and projected on the screen, this is a list of appointments from the select board. These folks have been contacted or have indicated in the past that they would like to continue to serve, and these were the terms that were up. So we have names for ADA Coordinator, Agricultural Advisory Committee, Animal Control, ARPA, Cable Advisory Committee, CIPC, Central Mass EMS, Community Preservation Committee, Conservation Commission Constable, there's Bella, Council on Aging, Economic Development Committee, Election Workers, Emergency Management Planning Committee, the Fire Chief, Hazardous Waste Coordinator, Historical Commission, Keep Hubbardston Beautiful, Mart Advisory Board, Memorial Day, MGTC, Open Space, Parking Clerk, your part-time police officers, your records access officers, your sexual harassment officers, Special Events Advisor, me, Town Council, Tree Warden, Trench Inspector for non-public ways, and the Trench Inspector for public ways. So these are all the select board appointments. These do not include my appointments by charter. And then after you take this vote, or have any further discussion, I'll show you the resignations and then we'll talk about vacancies.
These are the non-elected,
Non-elected.
all appointments, yes. Can we take it in one motion in that sense?
Vote the slate.
Okay, board will, the chair will look for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the slate of appointments, all for, I believe, 1-year term, and Andrew Bresciani as police for a 3-year term.
Is there a second?
Second that.
Motion made in second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you for reappointing me.
Great job,
I
Ella.
felt that you deserved the respect of my showing up in person,
Thank you.
and I will trouble you no further tonight. Thank you very much.
I'll get back to you on your item.
I will send you an email, sir.
Okay, second piece of this is resignations. So resignations that we will notify everyone that they were appointed. And usually there's some communication back. For the most part, people that continue to serve, but if there's any changes to that slate, we'll let you know. For resignations, we had Alice Libdahl and Stephanie Alice from Capital Improvement, and then from CPC, Kayla Larson and Alice Libdahl. So that's just for your notification. Let's see what we got next. Elected vacancies. Okay, this one, I do need the board to accept these vacancies from these elected officials. Once you accept them, we can advertise them per charter. Once they're advertised, we can take applications, and the way these elected appointments work is once we have nominations, we invite the remaining members of each board in to have a joint vote for the continuation of this term. Anybody who does apply for this will finish that year's term until the next election and have a chance to be re-elected. So this one is important because we have some volunteers already, but we can't put them in the positions until we go through this charter process. So these are your elected vacancies: 1 Board of Health, 1 Quabbin Regional School District, 2 on the Finance Committee, 2 on the Housing Authority, and 2 on the Parks Commission. So there's 2 on the Finance Committee, there was 1 non-elected, and then Peter joined us from the Finance Committee, which created a second vacancy, which is why there's 2.
Okay.
So you can vote these as a slate as well, or discuss any of them, or of course ask any questions.
Why don't we, take a motion to accept them as presented, and then we can have discussion if there's any, okay?
Go ahead, Katie.
I'll make a motion to accept them as presented, vacancies,
Second.
The elected vacancies, correct?
elected vacancies,
Yes.
yes.
Second? Motion made in second, is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Financial transfers, there are none, so we'll go right past that. And go to new business E, building department structure and appointments.
Okay, so these are, every employee in the building department is one of my appointments. However, I want to have a conversation with the board and get your feedback on a temporary structure we proposed, and then some more feedback on a more permanent structure, if you're willing to engage that tonight. So some action items for us, as put into your folders, we have new temporary hours, now accepting the resignation of Mallory. Mallory's gonna stay on for up to 2 months. She got another position but can work Monday nights from Monday and Tuesdays from 3 until 8 o'clock based off her new schedule, and then can give us 1 hour a day on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. She knows the entire department, and I'm confident, although there'll be a degrading of services, there won't be a discontinuation of services. So this will allow us to advertise the position, which we will do this week, and hire someone, and then hopefully have enough time on the back end for her to train them. And if we got 70% of what Mallory is, I'd be thrilled. She's an excellent employee, and we appreciate her willing to help us out. So we do need to appoint new staff. Our agreement with Gardner expires on July 1. This will also include establishing payroll, making sure those revolving funds we passed at town meeting are working and are connected to accounting for our turnovers and payments. We've worked on establishing our viewpoint accounts to make sure our inspectors have access to our digital permitting software. And then we need to make sure that they're conducting their inspections and we have a process. and then start a training plan for the new land use coordinator and hopefully the full-time building staff. So I already talked about the hours for the land use coordinator, so 4 is the formal time, but she will be coming in around 3 o'clock. So starting on July 1, I am proposing that we appoint Rich Brady, who served as our inspector about 2 years ago now, for a term of no more than 60 days. He'd be working for about 10 hours a week, 1 to 5 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So this would allow Mallory to prep for him, give public hours. These public hours, people would be able to come in and get advice on their projects or talk about their permits. And then outside those hours, Rich would be doing inspections and making sure that we're staying current with our inspections. So 2 questions that did come up, I did contact legal and the state, so we can appoint Rich Brady as a temporary building commissioner per Mass General Law for no more than 6 months. So he could have that building commissioner status. That is not ideal, but would help us bridge the gap. Or I've also reached out to a couple local towns and believe Princeton might be a good fit to have our local inspector, I should back up, Rich has a local inspector's license, be under or serving under a commissioner to make sure that we are fully taking care of our building department. So that's the building commissioner side, and then I'll talk about the long term in a second. Daryl Sweeney is currently our wires inspector or electrical inspector, but he works for Gardner. So if we were to appoint him, he would come over as our full-time electrical inspector working per call or part-time for the next year. I'm proposing a 75-25 permit split with him, so he would get 75% of any permitting and an annual stipend. This is to entice him to stay. There is not a lot of inspectors out there that are willing to work what we would call per diem, and we don't have the current budget structure for someone to work even temporary hours. And then I'm also proposing that we appoint Ed Tonette to be the plumbing and gas inspector for the same term, 365 days with a 60-day probation, since Ed has not worked with us before. Proposing a 75-25 split and a stipend of $500, since there is much less gas and plumbing than there is wire inspection.
And what was the stipend for Daryl?
1,000.
1,000, okay, thank you.
So I'll stop here. This is the solution until September 1st. Hopefully we can make that go faster, but we need something in place for the next 60 days to have some stability. So I'm more than willing to hear any questions, comments, concerns, or to talk about this before we do any actual appointing.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Pete.
Just on the annual stipend, is there wiggle room on that to maybe go a little more if we have to?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Like, let's say $100 a month, $1,200.
So what I told him was that we would start with this
Yeah.
and see how it goes and how the board wanted to go,
Yeah.
with the idea that if he's bringing in revenue and the service is good and we
Okay.
wanna keep the employee, that we increase it, like we would do with any other merit-based increases over time.
Okay, thank you.
But now he's gonna ask for 12, so.
Not if you watch this meeting.
Oh, that's right.
That's okay.
I don't mind, he's a good inspector. He's
I'll give you
worth it.
$200.
And are those rates that you talked about, they're commensurate with Barry, correct?
So the second piece of this is to talk about permitting fees.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanna talk about this
Okay.
structure first.
So do you need a motion from us for these, or do you just want us to say go ahead
Well,
and
let
make
me
those
talk about the
appointments?
building commissioner a little bit first
Okay.
here.
Go ahead.
This is really important, so I wanted to have an open discussion.
Yeah. 10 hours a week, Tuesday and Thursday here in the building.
Yes.
And then $30 per inspection outside of those hours.
Yes.
What determines that the inspection is going to be outside of those hours, or needs to be outside of those hours? Or can inspections not be considered in those 10 hours?
So we could. The reason why I said outside of those hours is because the board instructed me to work towards more full-time presence for the building commissioner in the office, because Rich suggested I'll just do my inspections during that time, but that would take away some public time. So we could do either. The reason why it can be outside those hours is because Rich and Mallory can schedule the inspections for whenever they want. So we used to do just night inspections, and then we went to Gardner, and now we have the day inspections, not the night inspections. So it's, there's pluses and minuses to both. People like the nighttime sometimes because of, they're working on things at their house, et cetera, but the contractor's like during the day, so it's a give and take. Ideally, we would be able to do both, but.
Well, I guess if I was the building inspector, I would want every inspection to be outside of normal hours, wouldn't I?
Yes.
So who's gonna regulate that?
Rich does not. I want him to be here in the office, sitting here. He wants to just do it. He doesn't wanna be here long term, so he's not looking for extra work. I can't put that in writing for you, but I can tell you that he's not looking to pick up an extra $30 here. He just wants to help the town for a couple months, and he's a capable inspector that our people have seen before.
So, and then after
But
those
this
couple,
wouldn't be a long-term thing, Chris, is what I'm saying, is.
Yeah, no, I get you, I get you.
after those couple of months, are we looking for a full-timer, or are we considering part-time? Again, we haven't been successful with part-time.
So
My opinion, I think we need someone full-time.
So what I want to talk to the board about, we'll just jump right into that, is we are budgeted right now for 30 to 40 hours a week for a building commissioner. So I proposed to 30 hours to start a building commissioner full-time. My only worry is this was the biggest injection into the budget, and we have the budget crunch from the school assessment and other costs that we've had. So I was worried as the appointing authority or employee that if we were to cut the budget because of any deficit we have, that this might be a target for cuts, and I didn't wanna hire a full-time person and then have to take it back. So if the board tells me in no way are we gonna cut, like this is it, we wanna hire this, then I will advertise right now. If we wanna wait until the budget discussion is coming, then I would like to keep this temporary arrangement to have more flexibility until we know exactly what we can do.
Anybody have any comments and feelings one way or the other, full-timer, part-timer? Heather?
So I understand what Ryan's saying, and I think, you know, this might be a good opportunity for us too, because having someone who has no long-term interest in the position, they might be able to do a nice outside assessment for us of, hey Ryan, you know, 10 hours just isn't anywhere near close enough, or hey Ryan, 10 hours plus, you know, 10 inspections outside of it, like, I'm swamped, I could do another 60 hours a week if you gave it to me. So that might be able to give us a little bit towards that, plus, you know, to Ryan's point, I think we just need to keep our options open because we don't know what's happening with the school stuff. I don't want to cut the building position. I think this is extremely important for us. I've been advocating it for a whole year, right? So it's like kind of a win point for me right here where we're at. But I totally understand where we're going, and plus it's probably gonna take a little bit once we do give Ryan or the go to move forward with securing a building commissioner to actually be able to find someone. So having someone who's willing to work with us a little bit part-time is, I think, very helpful.
You're talking about the initial, what he's
The initial, yes,
In the meantime, are you advocating a full-time one?
I still think full-time is the way to go.
Searching for a full-timer.
But I think
I'm on board with that, yeah.
I agree with Ryan's assessment of, you know, hanging 10 for a little bit and, you know, just easing into it slowly and making sure we're doing everything correct in the best interest of the town.
Cause I also think if you're not looking for a full-timer and it's another part-time job, you're gonna get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And we've not been successful, so I think we need to go the full-time route.
But I thought we discussed historically that we don't have full-time work for a full-time employee.
Historically, we do not.
Okay.
We would need to increase the responsibility of the position or what that position does in order to fill the time. Or ideally, Field of Dreams style, build the commissioner's office to potentially absorb regional towns and have revenue coming in that way so that we can have a full-time service here but also cut the costs down for ourselves. But first, we need to address some of the issues that this board has instructed me to address in terms of the building department.
Which includes, if I remember our conversation, zoning enforcement, which is something we haven't had as much time to tackle.
Right.
Fully candid, almost zero time to tackle. So we don't know what that will be.
Yeah, I'd like to have this gentleman kind of give us some feedback after he dives in to see, you know, gets through the backlog, and then let us know what he feels is realistic, him doing the actual work. You know, I wanna hear his feedback as well. I mean, I understand the whole full-time versus part-time, you get what you pay for, but we don't have the hours, so, and then building a whole commission, that would be ideal, but it's very time-consuming. So, not sure what the correct answer is, that's why I would like to hear this gentleman, Mr. Brady's feedback after he's been in for a little bit, to see where he thinks might be a good direction.
Ryan, is he gonna be doing zoning enforcement or just tackling inspections for us?
Just inspections.
Okay,
We'll
so,
be leaning on legal for zoning.
okay, so he may not be able to give us a full feel of what's gonna be required on the zoning side of the house.
We'll be able to catalog complaints, that's about it.
Okay. So this is still just a, regardless, this is a part-time solution, cause it still doesn't tackle our zoning issue. Okay.
Right, yeah.
So, and then my only financial question is with the 2 stipends where we're going to revolving fund for payment, so if I understand this correctly, Ryan, so if we charged $100 for a fee, the electrical and the plumbing and gas guy, say it's 2 permits, you know, each was $100, each of them would take $75 home, and $25 would go into our revenue.
General fund.
And we would use that 75 would pass through just the revolving fund, just a passing door. It goes in there and it goes out to pay them.
Correct.
Okay. And now the $1,000 and $500 stipend, are we thinking we'll just have enough in our regular budget of what you put in for the building department to cover those?
Correct.
Okay.
Until next year when they're their own line item for transparency.
Okay. That's all I had for questions.
Okay, so moving into, I believe I have what I need to
go
notify
ahead.
you of appointments
Okay.
moving forward. So then fees, and I'm gonna put this up on the screen here. Someday I'll just be able to think it and it'll pop up there. Did it? Okay, so one of the advantages of being in the agreement with Gardner is we kept all of the revenue. So this allowed us to not only make money on that deal, but to keep rates a little bit lower. So we didn't, for residents and the like. So we didn't address changing our fee structure. However, now that we need to hire people that are gonna do this job, specifically on, if you look down here, for these electrical inspections, these $57 inspections are to split that 75-25, it's not worth an inspector's time.
Right.
So we did a survey of the local area, 6 towns, one of them was Gardner, so we threw that out. I had Mallory put this together, just because they're a city and we're a town, not because their data's not good, and are proposing the following. So these would be increases in the fees, they are in line with the area, directly the same as what Barry uses, where Daryl Sweeney is also the electrical inspector. So everybody complains about fees, but nothing out of the ordinary for these fee structures. So this would allow us to properly compensate our wire inspector with the stipend and make this an enticing position to keep him for a couple years. It puts us in line, also increases a little bit of general fund revenue to replace the revenue we lose by going to these revolving funds. So this would require conversation and then vote.
Heather?
Just electrical fees proposed here?
Yes, so building we are in line, plumbing and gas we are in line. The only ones we were under on was electrical.
So you're looking for a vote from us to go from the 57 in a sense to the 100?
So from this current line to the proposed line, so
Yep.
fees as proposed. This is not all the fees, we're not increasing all of them. This is the ones that we are increasing, or proposing to increase.
Why did one go down?
That's just the minimum fee,
Okay, but it went down.
yes.
Okay.
I don't know why. I'll
Okay.
Yell at
That's-
Mallory, she's over there.
I'm just making sure that's correct.
It is.
Okay, alright.
What's the one below temp, what does that mean?
Blanket for,
Temporary commercial electrical license. Blanket for maintenance, so that's for our maintenance license. And I would need to bring her in to explain what that is. But it didn't change.
No?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the new fees as proposed for
Motion.
the electrical.
Motion is made, is there a second?
Second?
Motion made and second, is there any discussion
In discussion,
or questions?
I did, in my appointment to Daryl, if there's any new solar, which we're not anticipating at this time, but it could happen, we are to negotiate those fees and costs, when they arise.
Okay.
Because they are very valuable and we need to have a conversation about it, so that's why they're in there.
Any other questions or discussion from anyone? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carried. The tree hearing is canceled, going to another date, I believe the 11th, is that correct?
Jeff had a personal issue, and we notified all of the folks that were notified for this hearing, and we combined the hearings on the 11th, so that'll be a business meeting on the 11th, that we have to keep because we've advertised it already.
Yeah, okay. So we'll move to H, police structure, chief recruitment discussion, potential vote.
Give me 1 second.
Did we go over the structure, building structure? Did we already do that, or are we skipping over that?
We didn't do a
And
vote on
appoint.
it, but that was the
Okay.
one where Ryan was walking through the, building commissioner,
Yep.
building inspector,
Okay.
and the
Yep.
two plumbing and electrical guys.
But, Peter's right, there was one thing I didn't talk about, just
Okay.
to be thorough. So the land use assistant will be advertised and hired, that's Mallory's position. The main complaint from Mallory in exit interviews was, when we combine the ZBA, the planning board, the board of health, and the building department, obviously building department takes most of that. The second most was planning board and health board support, particularly agenda creation and minutes writing. So I talked to Tony. Tony currently works 25 hours and is looking for more work. We could increase Tony's hours to 35 hours rather than hire a minutes writer, and she could do board support for the planning board and the board of health. So this is just minutes, it's not health or land use stuff, it's not planning stuff, it's just, hey, I'm gonna help you post your agendas, I'm gonna write those minutes, so that gets taken off the land use coordinator and they can focus on actually supporting the board with the regional planning committee or regional board of health, and then the building department.
And she's willing to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
So she will be doing that mostly remote, but it's minutes writing, and honestly, if you write minutes here, you're not gonna get them done. So it's a good deal for us. She can do it a lot faster. So that's the increase in structure. So we voted in the budget additional hours, or for an assistant for land use, we will move that to the select board or executive assistant, 25 hours to 35 hours, and then any remainder will be put back into circulation for addressing any other budget needs we have next year.
So do you require a vote from us again, or has that already been taken care of?
Those are my
by the
appointments,
previous?
but I wanna make sure everyone's cool with
Okay,
the arrangement.
fine.
If so, then we'll make it happen, and it's all budgeted, there's no change in budget.
Sounds good. All right, with that, Pete?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay,
Okay, now the police department. So Chief Perrin offered his resignation, his letter's in your packet, and we've known about this for some time, not a surprise. So Chief Perrin resigned in order to continue his family life down in Florida. We wish him well. He served the town for 16 years. I believe he's the third or fourth longest tenure and the most tenured police chief in the history of the town. So he served us well. Definitely appreciate his service, and not a lot of people know how much he helped me in the beginning to meet people and to do a lot of the things I need to do in order to be successful in my job. So personal thanks to him for stepping up and helping, someone who was new to this get their feet wet and be successful, if you agree that I've been successful. So we accepted Chief Perrin's resignation. So part of that, unfortunately, there's always like contractual and financial stuff. He is owed accruals per his contracts that were signed many years ago. So we've encumbered funds from FY '22 that the police department did not expend, and we are pushing those forward. And then there will be some change in budget in his salary line, and we'll try to cover those accruals with those. And then anything left would be either covered by a special town meeting or a town meeting vote, or if there's any additional funds at the end of the year, we'll cover it that way. So I do believe that we have it covered without any major damage to the budget, and it's a significant amount. So that's one thing that I can go over in more detail if you want, but that is established. So next, we need to appoint an acting staff. So July 15th is his resignation date. He will be moving on as of that time, and we will be paying out accruals, and he will be collecting his retirement on the 16th. So we need to accept the resignation. This is your hire and your appointment, so this is your call. Appoint acting staff, establish payroll, reconfigure emails, reconfigure the budget, negotiate an acting contract, and establish the search committee, which would come next. So because of budget considerations, because of the structure of the department, and because of what I'll get to in a second in terms of mobility within the police department, I'm recommending to you the following for your appointment decision. That we appoint Sergeant Brian Kuchar as the acting Hubbardston Police Chief for 6 months with a 6-month renewal option. And then we would appoint in consecutive terms of 3 months Patrolman Bergeron and Patrolman Blood to act as police sergeants. So this would allow our 2 most senior patrolmen a chance to have some leadership experience. It would allow Sergeant Kuchar to have some leadership experience and give you 6 months to review both as such, establish any goals you want, and to address any successes or issues. At the same time, you would come up with and implement a chief recruitment process. So I do believe that there should be a full search for a position as important as this. If you establish goals, then the internal candidate would have a leg up in this process if there's success, but you still do the full search process in order to show the town that you're doing as big of a search as possible if you want. So you would just need to decide the chief recruitment process, how long you want to go with that. I would give it at least 90 days to accomplish that, whether you want to hire a consultant or not, and who's going to conduct that process for you. So that would be my recommendation, especially in the short term, for stabilizing the department, giving some mobility, and addressing some of the financial concerns, and then your long-term consideration of how you want to make sure that you are properly evaluating everyone for this position. And Sergeant Kuchar's resume is there. Of course, we can have any patrolman. He's here to answer any questions, and then I can answer any questions about what I just presented.
Okay. Anyone have any questions?
I just have one. You don't have too much training, huh?
I think you never get too much training.
I agree, but you might need another page in a few years.
Yeah, hopefully.
That's all I got. Yeah, sure.
Anyone else? So can we have a motion to accept the recommendation of the town administrator and the appointment?
Motion to accept town administrator's recommendation to forward Sergeant Kuchar as acting chief.
I'll second that.
Motion made and second. Is there any discussion, questions? Heather, you look like you have a question.
Well, I was just I guess I had 2 pieces. Going to this, I would say we probably wanna stick a date to Ryan's point of, 6 months or whatever, at least initially with our appointment. And we also, I would ask if, Peter would accept a friendly amendment to modify it to say pending successful contract negotiations, cause we'd still have to negotiate
Okay.
the contract. And then my second piece is just going back, do we need to accept the chief's resignation before we fill his position?
You did in the
We already
consent
did.
agenda.
Okay, we already took care of that, okay,
Yeah.
just
Sneaky.
checking. You are sneaky, just checking.
Okay.
Now I gotta try and remember what you just said.
She's giving you a
Just accept
friendly
it.
amendment.
I'd like,
You
should
can
I,
make her have to
do I have to
repeat
make
it.
the motion again?
No, she's amending your motion.
Oh,
So you,
excellent.
all you have to say is, that's fine with me, I will
That
accept.
sounds excellent.
So,
Jesus, thank you.
I'll still second that.
so a motion has been made, seconded, and amended. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carried. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Good luck.
Congratulations.
Thanks for your confidence.
We'll be talking.
Very deserved.
I have my
Cards.
email and my cell phone number on these,
Thank you.
so
Thank you.
I'm always available.
You have a new card made, acting chief.
You gotta get a signed contract first,
Yeah.
don't give him 2 heads.
I'm very flexible.
Acting chief pending contract.
Unless Peter wants to, offer me more money than I would ask for.
I don't know. I'm pretty tight.
Okay, that takes care of the new business.
Sergeants, do we need to do an
Oh.
appointment for sergeants?
Yeah, sorry.
The police chief controls the structure, but
Awesome. So we don't have to do anything
good
with
to
that.
go.
We're all set then, okay. Go to the old business, the RAP plan.
So I did have a question on this, I don't know if you were gonna present it, Ryan, first.
So it has been presented, the only update, and then of course we can discuss it, is, I did reach out to the state and we should receive our contract, which means we can start spending against the contract in mid-July.
Alright.
We've started the procurement process for some of this. That's not true. You'll start the procurement process next week, when Travis is back from his vacation.
Any questions, comments? Go ahead, Heather.
Just a question, Ryan, so RAP expenditure breakdown on the Excel spreadsheet, right?
Yes.
And then we get to Travis's letter, at the very bottom in teeny tiny little font, it says extra funds needed, 56,859.
So the spreadsheet is accurate, as presented up here.
Okay.
I honestly don't think we're gonna be able to accomplish this, given the inflation costs, so
Yeah.
he will cut down roads as needed.
Okay,
But we will not go over this total, because we do not have the money.
okay, so disregarding the tiny print.
That's to do everything he wanted to do, and we're cutting it down to this.
And that's for Lombard Road?
No, this is.
What is that for?
So this is for, Route 62 restorative seal with stone chip sand mix, 2.59 miles, using a reclamant seal on Burnshire, Williamsville, New Westminster, and Worcester, and then crack sealing, which was the crack sealing that was in the ARPA application
That
plus
got
additional.
bounced.
Do we have any idea, what funds might be coming from the state in July for this?
For this?
Yeah.
Just, well, we know that we're getting this RAP funding for sure.
Mhm.
The Ford bill is still under debate. The Ford bill would be, I don't wanna mislabel it, but very similar to ARPA in a locally controlled money. I don't know if Heather disagrees, I don't think we're gonna get it in this budget cycle, cause the Senate is not against it, but they have other uses of that ARPA money, and the governor put all the ARPA money into it, which makes them hesitate.
So if that doesn't come through, what does that do to Travis's overall plan?
So this stays, chapter 90 stays, the 100 from town meeting stays, and the Lombard Road money from ARPA stays. As you'll see in my town administrator report, Lombard Road went over budget, which I'll explain
Yeah.
in a minute, by 15,000, so that will either impact chapter 90 or ARPA, and I'll explain why, unless you want me to do it right this second. And costs are just going still bananas. So everything we thought we could do in March, we revised in May and June, and even in June it's being revised again. So the cost of liquid asphalt in particular is, we put all these accelerators in that normally cover any change in the budget, and they've blown past all of it. So it's not controlled by us, honestly, it's controlled by the state and or our bidding process, and it's expensive, so
Okay.
good news.
Anything else on that? Okay.
Yeah, no, let's talk about, I just lost it. In Travis's letter, said something about New Westminster Road from the town line to, Mare Meadow.
Yes.
What is happening there? That was just done.
So that's adding a preventative sealant on it, so that it doesn't deteriorate to the point where it needs the full reclamation in 5-6 years, cause we wouldn't get to it in 5 to 6 years, so this is gonna extend it even farther. And it is new, but if we were doing everything the right way, we would be maintaining all the roads at the same time that we're fixing them, and we can't. This one's just such an important thoroughfare that we wanna make sure it's maintained.
Preferably prior to before they start cracking, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, is that just sealant, or is that's not the one with the sand like they did on Ragged Hill and New Templeton? Cause the top one says,
Yeah, it's a reclamite, so it's a, if I'm explaining it correctly, it goes and digs in and then rebinds all of the aggregate so that the seal is tight, because what happens when it unravels is the water gets in and that's what causes the damage. So if you can seal it, like you would us older folks that had our teeth sealed, it's kind of the same concept. So you're trying to prevent the cavities before they happen.
So they're
Good
gonna
analogy?
regrind the road and seal it?
They just seal it, but
Just seal it, but they rough it up to seal it?
no, they just put it on top.
Okay, so the
It's
water
like a
doesn't
binder,
get-
an extra
yeah,
binder.
okay. Yeah,
So
it'd be a
just the
shame.
62 is getting the sand on top.
But yes.
Okay, make sure you, now does that, the reclamite, is that the same sticky? That's gonna get all over everybody's cars, cause I just,
It is, and
okay, we just gotta
heard
make sure
loud and clear,
everyone's,
we're gonna
yes,
notice that
well
as
aware
much
in
as possible.
advance.
That the roads are gonna be,
Yeah, cause it does make a mess of your vehicles.
That's-
With no
Kerosene-
warning,
Kerosene
it's-
takes it right off.
Huh?
Dampen a rag with kerosene takes
Oh,
it
yeah?
right off, instantly.
Okay.
Just don't smoke.
Yeah. That would be bad.
We think the same.
I'll do like a YouTube video where I show them how to,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. We're gonna
Wax on,
notice it
wax
as
off.
much as possible. Those concerns are real to me, and, we're gonna try and put up signage this time and make sure there's advance notice. Cause it does a good job, but it is sticky and it does make
Yeah.
a mess.
So to be clear, the new road, Mare Meadows, Westminster, the part that's new, is getting some sort of coating on it to make it last longer than it normally would.
Yes.
Okay.
For $27,000.
For $27,000. How many more years do we get out of it for $27,000?
In theory, it's, and this is off the top of my head, so I will confirm, but 7 to 10.
7 to 10 more years,
It'll last
additional
that
years?
long
Oh,
with this on it.
okay.
Has a better chance of lasting that long, I should say.
anything else on that?
So is that something you do to only new roads?
Ones that we're worried that they're gonna unravel faster than others, so the traffic count on the road is what really drives this.
So it's not something you would do on a non-new road, an existing road?
Correct, unless we had the money to do it and we don't.
Okay.
We would if we could, do it to all of them, but.
Okay.
Anything else?
Not for me.
Alright, then we'll go to old business B, lessons learned from the town meeting. This is wide open for discussion on the part of anybody, anything you noticed, et cetera.
What are we on? What?
We're on, six
Old
B.
business B.
Oh, 6B.
Town meeting lessons learned.
Yeah,
So this is, I try to capture any concerns, comments, or improvements that, the board wanted from town meeting, just to make sure that we're not missing anything. I'd also missed a couple, so I just wanna make sure
Oops.
the good, the bad, the ugly from town meeting
Thank you.
that you wanna remember and put in the sustainability plans. Okay.
Crickets.
I thought overall it went very well and smoothly.
The town meeting, yeah, I thought it was
Yeah.
one of the better ones we've had lately.
Chris, got anything?
No, I mean, it was town meeting, right? It went well, everything went well, I don't see
We
anything
had a
that.
quorum. It's a start.
Nothing alerted me to the point where I feel we need to change anything or do something different. I think it went fine.
Anything you wanna add?
Nope,
Alright,
just wanted to
okay.
give everyone a chance, cause we forget these things as soon as they happen, so,
Okay.
just in case.
Go to the FY23 budget update.
With your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'll throw that right into my TA report as well, cause it's the first part.
Okay.
This is showing my errors. Alright, bad writing, Ryan. Anyways, FY 23 budget update. So the towns of New Braintree and Hardwick voted to reject the Quabbin Regional School District School Committee budget last week, resulting in a 30-day time frame for the school committee to reconsider their budget request. So by,
Can I stop you there? What was do you know the vote by town?
just non-official votes, it was about 65-35 in Hardwick.
Oh, no, I don't mean the percentage, I mean which town voted to approve, was it just Bear?
Just Barry and Oakham's tonight, so
Oh,
no
Oakham is tonight.
results yet.
Okay.
Oakham is the very last one.
So it's already blown up then at this point.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you need 2 towns to vote down the budget in order for the school committee to reconsider it.
Mhm.
Reconsider it means they can look at the budget again, they can increase it, they can keep it the same or they can decrease it. Historically, they don't increase it, I don't see why you would do that, but there's no mechanism to say what is coming back. So traditionally, they meet after the July 4th holiday and then send another assessment to the towns. So if you want any correspondence on behalf of the town or anything to go to the school committee, let me know. We can also see what happens there, but the concept that remains is the school committee is not gonna come down to the 3.8% that Hubbardson built into its budget. Some good news on that is since I got back, really ripping through the new growth to make sure that that number is accurate and we're capturing everything we can, knowing that we have these revenue issues. So I'm pretty comfortable that 30 to 40,000 in new revenue is gonna be available for the budget in order to soften the deficit. But that should still leave, in my opinion, some gaps to cover. I don't wanna speculate what the gap would be because I have no idea.
Right.
But I do think the board will need to start considering maybe even bringing the finance committee to the select board meeting on the 11th to start talking about what you wanna do with the budget. So in my opinion, you're gonna need some combination of operating budget cuts, this additional new revenue, and perhaps one-time funds. So if it's the board and the finance committee's position that there will be no one-time funds and we will cut, then I'll need to know where that's gonna come from, and that's why I'm worried about things like the building commissioner budget. If we are gonna use one-time revenues, I need to know the level, and then I'll have to present the plan to overcome that, because we finally did in the last couple of years. You don't want that to be a habit. And if we can't certify free cash in time for the meeting, that's gonna have to come from stabilization. So the idea would be if there's enough free cash, you put that back in to keep our stabilization accounts there. So that's the update. If there's any more questions.
Just to make sure we're all on the same page. So in the event, Ryan, that we decide we don't wanna put any more money towards this budget, right? School committee comes back with a lesser number, but still not the number we budgeted, there's still a gap. And we say, no, we've already put forward what we're gonna put forward. We can move forward with that to town meeting.
Yes.
But what happens even if assume everything goes in our favor and everyone else says no the second time around, right? Whatever number it is, they're still not happy with it, says no. Can you just remind us what ends up happening?
We'll go to the state then, wouldn't it?
Not necessarily.
Oh,
So
okay.
there would be 30 days after a second rejection of the school budget to send another number back. And at this point, it's likely that the school committee would just send the same number back again or not take any action. Or they could lower it, or they could increase it. So if they sent a lower number, then the towns would have to consider it again. If they sent the same number, that number would carry until December, when DESI would make a decision on the budget level. So they would assess the 5 towns and then tell us what the school assessment is gonna be. So that doesn't necessarily favor one side or the other, but it is the education branch of the state government. Until that time, we would be on what's called a 1/12 budget, meaning we chop last year's cost into 12ths, and we pay that every month to keep the schools running and make sure that we're educating the children while this budget's being decided. And then the second half, we would make up for that. So we have built a cash flow plan to make sure that we can accomplish any of these goals, and we'll need to live in that month-to-month situation until December. The thing to know about that is that will have implications on any of these initiatives that we're talking about, like the building commissioner. So if we're sitting and waiting for a budget till December, we're frozen in terms of things we're less flexible in things we can do in the town, in terms of what's been budgeted and what's been passed.
On a rare case, if this were to happen, which I don't think it would based on the way the other towns are, but if after all these different times coming and going, et cetera, back and forth, let's say it turned out there were 4 towns that said yes and we're the only no, we would still no, that is when the state gets involved, right? Because we would have not, even if we said no, we'd have to go along with it at that point, wouldn't we?
So it's not this, I understand what you're saying, it's not the state, it's if the other 4 towns vote yes, then that's the number.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to have another town meeting to
And we would be,
increase, and we typically go first, so we did that a few years ago. We voted it down a second time, everyone else passed it, and then we had to adjust the budget at a 3rd town meeting.
And basically, we'd have no choice at that point.
You don't have a choice.
You have to go with the, yeah. Yep.
Ryan, just off the top of your head, best you can do, estimated cost, what it costs us to throw a town meeting? Cost of clerk, check-in people for the town clerk?
With all the time and everything, anywhere from 4 to 10,000.
Additional time over and above what she normally works?
Oh, not above and beyond, no, but that would tie up that much staff time. Couple
Okay.
grand to run a town meeting and costs. We
Okay.
have to send out the postcards, we have to notice everyone. There are some costs, I don't wanna overstate the cost, but it's a waste of money.
And if, you know, depending on what the school comes back at, before the second round proposal, is it feasible for us to try to do like a representative meeting with the other towns? Where we could try to get you, maybe yourself and your equivalents in those communities, or if not, the chairs of those select boards in a room together to have a conversation?
We had a very productive executive level meeting with some representatives previously in the administration. That would be easy to put together. That would be the select board and finance committee sending maybe one rep. Those meetings are better than full boards where
Yep.
it gets a little contentious.
Agreed. But we could do something like that in the event that they come back with a number that we're still not excited about.
Yeah, and I'd also reach out to the school committee reps.
Any questions?
Do we, and you said you expect them to come back with something shortly after the holiday?
I do. They have 30 days, so it has to be by July 23rd. So that week of the 16th-ish. The 11th to the 15th is kinda where I expected.
Okay.
And where are we now? What did we,
How far off?
approve and what are they looking for?
So
We are at 8.03%.
they
What's the
requested
number though? What's the dollar number?
about 215,000 is the deficit between their request and what we approved.
Understanding that even if we came up with what they were asking us for, this year we might be able to skate by, next year it's gonna be potentially devastating if they go up the same percentage.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't know. We never know that. That's half the problem, right? I mean, that's,
Yeah, but every year you add this much to the base.
Right.
It doesn't even matter, even if they go up 2%, that's more money than it has been past trending years, because you're looking at 2% on a higher base of increase of the year before. Just keep raising that baseline.
Yeah, so it just keeps climbing and climbing till eventually we won't be able to make it without doing some serious cuts.
And at an earlier meeting, when they were here, I think Susan, you brought this up, and I think that's what is going to happen. They're gonna meet earlier in the year, and you had even requested, could you be there, so that we're getting a better idea and getting an input earlier in terms of what they're thinking and what we're thinking.
Yeah, he just
So
spent it.
that in itself is a change in what it's been for the last, since forever, that they're going to allow that, so who knows? But
well, it's all good on face value, but I don't know what impact our opinions would have in a meeting like that.
Well, that's the budget. Moving on to Lombard Road. So I mentioned this previously, so we're resurfacing and reconstructing the road and it's complete, but inflation hit us in June. So although this was once anticipated to be under budget, the project is now running over at about 15K for a total overage. We found this out on Thursday or Friday. So we'll either need to use chapter 90, which given the rising costs would then impact how much we could do on Thompson and Cruz Road, or ask for additional ARPA money to cover it.
So the road is fabulous. Great job. My only concern now is that people are gonna drive too fast down that road. Because I used to go like 15 miles an hour back when it was terrible, so I'm sure you're aware of that potential and possibility.
Especially with a conservation area and
Yeah, it's just not a road to be cruising down too fast, so. But it's nice, very, very
It
nice.
is nice.
And what were the, so I noticed the berms, did we talk about that here? The berms on the side of the road,
Which ones?
on Lombard?
Like the Cape Cod berms, little mounds?
Yeah, what are those? What are those all about?
So
I
those-
think Travis mentioned this, didn't he?
In specific parts, they're to.
Yeah, they're only in specific parts.
To route water to some of the culverts we fixed or any particular drainage. So where you can't have country drainage, you'd want these berms to direct water where it's supposed to go. That should,
As opposed to running just off the side of the road.
or staying on the road, which is
Prevents
the
it from
worst.
undermining the road.
So if there's no place for country drainage, then you'll see those berms, they're strategically placed for that drainage reason.
Down to the
Travis,
spot
if you-
where it can drain properly.
If you watch him walking behind, he directs where they're gonna go
That's it.
to make sure.
How much, ARPA money do you have left?
Not
We
a
have
lot.
another meeting tomorrow,
We
so
do?
hopefully,
I mean,
50.
just a rough,
and
yeah.
potentially tomorrow, unless Susan's not available, then it'll be the following week.
I'm available, I didn't expect to find out about it tonight.
I sent an email last week.
Oh, did you?
So
I
the
did,
the
but that's
original
okay.
price for that job was, it came in under bid, am I not correct on
It
that? Like, what was it, 525, 535?
5:30, so about 45.
And the original thought was 575, and now they're 15,000 over the 575. So from 520, 35 up to, that's how much the price went up on material.
Yes.
Wow. That's a lot of rubles. Alright, that was just for my own good, I just wanted to know that.
The only reason I was asking in terms of what's left is, we're caught between a rock and a hard place, because in the same sense, you've gotta come up with the $15,000, but if ARPA were to do it, then a lot of people who have applied for help, et cetera, some of them are gonna be disappointed, because now another 15,000 would be going. But where else are we going to, what are our options?
Well, if there's that much demand, people are gonna be disappointed no matter what, because there isn't that much money left over.
True.
So,
Mm.
they missed, early bird and all that stuff.
How many applications are pending?
Well, we don't have any pending, Jeff, we
Oh,
closed
okay.
the first round, we have to do the next round.
That's what I'm talking
were
about, the second
originally
round, yeah.
We were originally hoping to have it for July 1st, but I've been behind on doing a lot of the manual labor, so.
Oh, I'm
we're
not
a
criticizing, I'm
little-
just trying to, just asking,
No,
that's all,
so
yeah.
right now we have no pending applications,
Okay.
Jeff, if you
Mm.
remember one of the last select board meetings, when we took the last vote for
Yep.
things, we cleaned everything up.
Yep.
So there's nothing else out there, anyone who didn't get something funded or they had more requests were encouraged to apply for the next round.
Mhm.
Hopefully, hopefully tomorrow, if we have enough people, we'll be able to finalize things tomorrow and then get it out with applications coming in August, but Ryan, we don't have the second amount of ARPA in the bank yet, do we?
No, so we just applied for it, so we should get it in the next couple weeks, the second tranche, as it's called.
So the first one they did automatic,
The
the second one,
700,000, right, that was the first part
Yeah,
of
the
it,
second half.
yeah.
the second
Some-
half, they made you go into sam.gov, grab a new ID number, and then circle back around and actually ask for the money.
Yes.
Nice.
And some of it's already obligated, so it's whatever's remaining,
Mhm.
and then turned back.
Yeah, so what do we got left, about 400,000?
I was trying to look up I couldn't find the spreadsheet
Yeah,
on my phone.
I think that's about
It's
it,
in
Susan,
400 and change left over.
something like that.
I did send it out, I think, as an email to all of the board members before one of those meetings, so you
But
all
yeah, you
probably
guys don't
have
even
it.
have your new application out, correct?
No,
That's
we
right.
don't.
You
We
guys
need to
have
update the
still-
website to reflect that it's,
Do you even have it
coming.
made? Or is that tomorrow?
About 25%?
Okay. Yeah, it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
So if we go after ARPA, they gotta redo an application for the ARPA fund?
Yep.
And who does that, capital planning? Was it capital improvement?
Anyone's allowed to apply to the ARPA committee,
Okay, for that money for the road.
residents, organizations,
Okay.
businesses. Oh,
Yeah,
who would
but
do
He's
that?
asking
Travis
specifically
would
about
do it.
Lombard
Travis.
Road.
Would Travis
Oh,
do it,
I
or would
would
you
do
do
it.
it?
I would.
You would do it,
Okay.
alright.
Yeah. Anything more on the TA? Point?
Yep, so a couple contracts, looking for your support in signing these. So one of them is Vadar, this is our financial software. So it's been in your folder, new 3-year term.
The amounts go up, Ryan?
Went up.
In the,
I was happy with what went up.
Vadar contract, I was looking at it over, it talks about the municipal responsibility would be to have a project manager. Would that be the TA? I assumed that, I just wanted to make it clear, okay.
But we've already installed it, so
Mhm.
it's good to go.
Okay.
It's about 2%,
Okay. 1 year, 3 year,
3-year.
okay.
In my opinion, this is well worth it, this is good software.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second one, if you wanna vote them together or not, is the planning assistance grant from MRPC. So we were able to secure a grant for work on the solar bylaw for the planning board. They were on board with this is just contracting with MRPC in order to do that work. So I'm looking for a vote to be able to sign these both on your behalf.
So just one comment, if I can, on the MRPC one. So point of contacts on here, Ryan, you have Chris Monroe with the C and Monroe spelt wrong, and his email is CMONROE. So I don't think it affects the major terms of the contract. On attachment A, scope of services, page 7. We just probably wanna update that before we send it off to them.
I don't know how you got that, I don't even know that guy.
I don't know him either, but
I don't have it fixed.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the MRPC contract for the services for the large-scale solar photovoltaic bylaw work, as well as the Vadar 3-year contract for financial software services.
Second.
Motion made in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Alright, going back to a couple more things. So for planning updates, one of the things that David had less time to get to were some of these planning efforts, so I'm trying to double back and make sure that we're supporting our boards that are working on some of these things. And that was just a product of his time, not his talent, just wanna make that clear. So I talked with MRPC about our Green Communities grant. We have about 28,000 left in grant monies that we can spend. This increases the efficiency of our buildings and is free money, so we'll be looking to spend that on projects that have been identified as Green Communities projects. And then I'll be working with Karen to see if there's any other action grants in that program that we can take advantage of to fund the rest of it. The master plan has 2 chapters left, the housing and implementation chapters. These are supposed to be presented to the planning board no later than August. I also am having a meeting with MRPC to talk about implementation on the staff side, and one of the things I wanna do is make sure that my goals are in there in addition to the staff's goals, and then those will become part of our department goals as well. So some coordination on the implementation of the master plan is important. Once the implementation's done, there's a small amount of money that was passed for this chapter. We're gonna look to invest that in getting this implementation actually done and starting to build a strategic plan that we can do something with. So sometimes master plans sit on the shelf. Bottom line is I wanna get this into the mainstream and to our boards and committees, so we're actually doing the work. That's what the implementation chapter is about. And then talked with the director of MRPC about the Economic Development Committee continuing to work on the town center overlay recommendations, so connecting those two, we should be able to get back to meeting. The only problem is the quorum on the EDC, because Peter's now serving on this board, so we just need to make sure that they can meet, or if the planning board's taking that, or what's going on with the town center overlay. And then you saw the effort with the solar bylaw. That's also something that the planning board is working on. So we got a lot going on with MRPC. I'm just trying to project manage it and get them all talking again, if they weren't already, which most of them were. Alright, next, the town.
Question,
Yes.
sorry, on the Green Communities first round of funding?
It is the first round.
Thank you.
For the town pit, so town meters approved the funding for lot 57. I talked to the engineers at VHB about this so we can get it started. So previous studies identified lead and street sweeping contaminants. We were required by the state to file a report. This helps us understand the level of report that we need to file. So once we understand and the scope of work is complete, then we will have to then talk about funding the final report that gets turned in November to address this. So one of the recommendations will be how do we get rid of the sweeping contaminants and make sure that's done correctly and documented properly. The other one is whether or not or what we need to do with the lead. We also talked about making sure we coordinate with anyone around so that it's a full study. So this deadline again is in November, and we have kickstarted that work, and that will start this week or next week as well. Lastly, just
Brian, one sec, who is VHB?
they're the engineer that proposed this, and this was proposed back in October, so this is one of those things that I'm trying to get kick-started again. So VHB did a little bit of work for us, and then they identified some of the problems.
So they're a private entity?
Yes.
There's a couple different engineering firms, Chris, in the state, and, you know, most towns, you know, sometimes will put it out, sometimes we'll work with one or the other, cause it's an exception to procurement services based on prior relationships.
Okay.
Alright, and then for employee recognition, Tony, who is your assistant, my assistant, she really spearheaded the town center project. So while I was trying to help everyone with this planning stuff and some other projects in the budget, Tony was taking this on almost single-handedly and with David. So she did all of the letters, worked with legal to coordinate to make sure that everybody was noticed properly, did all the donations and the easements, and really went well above and beyond what she wanted to do. So this resulted in our notice to proceed, which we received for next year's construction. We still have that tree hearing we have to do, but other than that, we've been given the green light for next year, and I think that is a lot to do with Tony's effort in the last couple months and to make sure that this project got done timely. And her doing that allowed me to do everything else and to work on you with some of the other stuff, so Tony deserves a lot of credit for that. Mr. Chairman, that is my report.
Any questions, discussions? Give our thanks to Tony on that. Okay, any policies to review? None that I'm aware of at this point. Okay. Again, we have 2 more meetings coming up in July 11th, which pretty much is gonna be, according to what Ryan told me, a regular business meeting, but to give you a heads up for the July 18th meeting, he's asked that we spend about 1 to 2 hours if we can on just goals oriented, and so it's give it some thought as to which direction, as much as we can hope for, that we would like the town to go in terms of, we have monies coming in this, what we wanna do with that. So that this is what we wanna concentrate on for the 18th, so everybody just, if you have some thoughts of what you'd like to have us do in the short term and long term, that's what we'll kick around, okay?
Some focuses there, service levels, particularly public safety service levels, building and maintenance, or long-term planning for building and maintenance, roads, which are consistently come up, and then all of that will help us decide debt levels and placement of additional federal funds like the infrastructure project, what to go to the state for. There's some opportunity in the coming years. I just wanna make sure that we're capturing what you wanna get done so that we can funnel the money to the right spot.
Okay. Alright, Matt is not reasonably anticipated by the chair, or none that I'm aware of. Anything to be brought up by anybody here?
Yeah, I wanna ask a question about the clock on the school. Do we know why it doesn't work?
No.
Can we find out why it doesn't work?
The new one?
The brand new one?
Wow, I didn't realize it wasn't working.
It's right twice a day.
Okay, we'll look into that.
Yes, I'm interested as well.
Anything else?
Yeah, the batteries ran out.
The what?
Yeah, I'm just kidding. This is the batteries that did it.
Okay. Anything, Susan, anything you want to contribute to anything?
Nope, all good.
You're the public right now, so.
That's
We
right,
got one
nope,
more.
public's
Huh?
cool.
Got one more.
Yeah, Ryan, anything you'd like to?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay,
No Templeton residents.
and no public, so, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
I can't make the motion, I'm asking for the motion, so.
You
So
did.
moved
Okay,
again,
thank
Jeff.
you.
And then I'll second it again.
All in
Yeah.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Alright.
Meeting adjourned.